They haven't asked for it to be postponed. They've withdrawn it completely. So I understand that they do not plan to, those developers do not plan to purchase that property and go forward. So there'll be no public hearing. There's nothing for that to be considered on that item tonight.
Thank you, David. All right, we're going to adjourn the work session and call to order the regular meeting. Roll call, Carol, please.
Gant,
Here.
Lamont,
Here.
Diamond,
Here.
Vaughn, Lindsay, Smith, Nelson,
Here.
Lazenby, McMillan.
All right, thank you, Carol. I'd like to ask everybody to please stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Dave, do you mind leading us here this evening, sir?
Father, we thank you for everything you give us, and we thank you for the fact that we can see days like today that are beautiful, and that we know that they're your handiwork, and you do them for us just because you can. And Father, at the same time, we're also aware that there are people all over this southeast that are hurting because of storms, disasters, and other issues. And Father, we ask that you help them and give them peace and understanding that only you can give, and help those responders that are out there trying to help them to be successful and wise and safe in how they respond. And Father, we ask that you give them grace and mercy as they do that. Father, today, thank you for each person that's here, that's volunteering of their time to serve on this planning commission. I ask that you give them wisdom to make the decisions that are right for this community. And Father, we thank you for loving us, and that we get to live in this community, in this state, in this country. And what a blessing that is. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, David. All right, do we, Mr. Smith, do we have any city council report, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Recent items that were passed by the City Council, we had a resolution approving the budget for 2025, which was good. Let's see, we've got, we approved a resolution for debris monitoring by Thompson Engineering. I have been told we won't need that. The Chamber of Commerce is no snowstorms this year. We're not going to have any of those, so we're not going to need any debris monitoring. We did rezone, as Casey mentioned earlier, the David's Catfish property from R1 to B3. We've updated our regulations for mosquito control and stagnant water. We have implemented a new time and attendance software system for the staff here at City Hall. We have approved brick repair and roofing repairs at our old City Hall building right down the road. We did approve a bid for a sidewalk to be constructed along Jimmy Faulkner from Tanager to Spanish Fort Middle School. That was along with approving the grants for that. It's going to be about $365,000 to construct, of which the city's only going to pay, I think, $15,000. So pretty good deal. And we did appoint one new member to the school sales tax commission, Mr. Eric Peden.
All right, thank you. All right, we have some minutes to get approved. August 26th work session, September 9th work session, and September 9th regular session. Do we have any errors or changes that we need to note? All right, minutes stand approved as written. All right, agenda item, as David said earlier, agenda item 240903 has been pulled. It is no longer on the agenda, and there's no plans for that piece of property at this time, which was Moss Ridge. So we'll move along to agenda item 240904. This is application for a zoning change. We'll have a public hearing on this agenda item. If anybody's here for any of these public hearings, if you would come over here to Carol at the table and print your name, when I call that agenda item, and then print your name and address. I'll call on you, come up to the podium, push the button, state your name and address, and we'll be glad to hear from you. All right, this is application for zoning change. It is at northwest corner of Alabama 225 and Spanish Fork Boulevard. The applicant is Southeast Acquisitions, LLC, on behalf of PMB LLC. Casey, your staff report, please, sir.
Mr. Chairman, this applicant is requesting a zoning change from the current R1 low-density single-family residential and B2 local business of 2 parcels to both B3 general business in order to allow development of the site as part of a larger commercial development, which has been proposed to possibly include the following uses: a grocery anchor store, restaurants, and additional retail. The applicant has submitted 2 preliminary potential site layouts for the development of the subject properties, which are attached in your packet, and get them up on the screen here. Again, these are just conceptual layouts. Nothing in this layout is being approved at this time. This is simply for zoning change. The existing conditions within the vicinity of the subject property include a mixture of single-family residential and local/general business uses. Due to the existing uses in the surrounding area, the impact of the overall development is unclear at this time, although development of the site will require at a minimum a traffic impact analysis in coordination with ALDOT and confirmation of serviceability from utility service providers. Subject property is identified on the comprehensive plan's future land use map as low-density single-family residential, which does mean a change to the proposed zoning would be a deviation from the current version of the comprehensive plan in this area.
All right, thank you, Casey. We'll open it up for discussion.
I think one of our considerations here is that it is close to the school, what kind of impact I'd be anxious to see this traffic study and just what they're thinking about all this coming in and out of there. We do have areas designated in the city for this. This wasn't one of them. So I'm not so against the zoning. I'd rather see B2. I'm a little bit nervous about putting another shopping center in at this intersection. So just to open that discussion.
All right, any other discussion?
I would like to say I share your concerns. Getting in and out of the shopping center that's there and the bank and going that direction, sometimes there's some traffic there. You have to really be careful or you can get hit. In fact, and I know that there have been wrecks there where people have been seriously injured. I'm just concerned about the traffic. I don't have a problem with it other than can the traffic be handled? Is there a way to do that? I'm not very well versed in how you construct streets and getting in and out, but I'm concerned about it.
So just from a point of process, if the traffic study comes back, I don't know if it takes a week, a month, a year, negative, with a lot of challenges, what does that do for us trying to look at zoning tonight?
Yeah, that would be down the road if, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't think that the rezoning triggers the traffic study. Is it the land use or the site plan that we?
Yeah, the rezoning, for what you're doing tonight would be a recommendation to City Council as to whether or not the property should be rezoned to that zoning classification. A traffic study would only be triggered under one or two scenarios, either under site plan approval process or under subdivision if they were to come in and request, and that would be at a later date depending on the type of development that they propose to do on the site. And when I say depending on the type of development, if they had a low-end use that everybody knew of, it might not trigger a study at all. If it had a use that triggered a lot of trips, then it would more than likely trigger or require a traffic study at that point.
So keep in mind, anything that's in the R3 zoning classification, if this was to be rezoned, could go there. Any and everything that's in R3. That's by right.
Not R3, B3.
Excuse me,
B3.
B3, I'm sorry. B3.
Yeah, so if you look at our comprehensive plan, you know, think about all our areas at Bass Pro that are being not used right now. I mean, that's where we wanted our retail and things like that. We have, you know, comprehensive plan, we got big areas designated for this. This was designated for residential. So I think we need to consider that. You know, talking with the chairman earlier about the applicant pulling Moss Ridge, we had blind spots on that road. I know that was going to be an issue for traffic getting in and out of that subdivision just because of the blind spots alone. This is at least on an even grade that's going down this hill, but I'm just thinking about the amount of traffic, you know, and maybe, you know, something I think we ought to consider.
If you subdivide the property for a subdivision, 40 acres there, what is that going to do for a traffic situation? So that's the question I have. And what would be the difference at this point?
And also what our original land use plan has been quite a number of years ago, and we've seen different changes in the city evolving as time goes by. So it's not like it would be setting a precedence to approve this due to the fact that the land use doesn't show it as B3. And that's something we probably need to get back into and update this land use plan in the near future. All right, anybody else?
I'd love to hear an answer to that. Any quick math you can do? How many homes would we be talking about if they were to develop it as residential right now?
It depends on how they can make it work and the elevations and the you know, what's allowed there as far as if there's any conditions or concessions made as far as zoning or a PUD or something like that. I will say though that the developer does, or the current landowner, which I don't know how the exact relation to the developer, but they own this 25-acre piece, this probably 25 or so acre piece, plus this here. Now, how much of that is actually developable, I don't know, because there is some wetlands back in there. But as it stands right now, it's all residential and could potentially at some point be developed. What they're proposing with the commercial development is to not touch anything back here and to place that into some sort of conservation easement or something so that it remains undeveloped.
Casey, real quick, did notices go out to Spanish Main residents
I'm sorry?
for rezoning? Did the notices go out to all these residences that are on Spanish Main? Or was that close enough?
Don't-
Was that 300 feet?
I'd have to actually measure that. I'm not sure.
I'm seeing some
sent
shaking some heads, so no, I'm assuming no. That must have been just a little bit over 300 feet away.
probably. I
Okay.
don't know exactly what the distance was. It did go out to anyone within 300 feet of that yellow line.
So everybody on General Lee got their notice,
Yeah.
supposedly got their notice. I'm still seeing some shaking heads out there. Okay. So, and then of course, Spanish Fork Estates, I know they got it because they're just across the power easement. Hopefully, most of them got it. Garrison Ridge, okay. Garrison Ridge, so, yeah, so we can open up public hearing now here.
All right, any other discussion? All right, discussion's closed. We'll have a public hearing. Carol, did anybody sign up? Okay, if y'all would go ahead. All right, I believe we have somebody here representing the developers, the engineer, developer. If you would come up, I'd like to hear from y'all first before we open the public hearing, please.
Is that good? Y'all hear me okay? I'm on the tail end of a cold, so I sound a little bit like Tom Waits, sorry. But anyway, John Argo, representing Southeast Acquisitions. I'm a manager of the Southeast Capital Partners. Acquisitions is one of our acquisition entities. We have a contract to purchase this particular property, which is 21 acres, give or take, as well as, I think Casey pointed out, Ryan, if you want to point out the tract. Also, the big tract, the tract to the rear, that entire tract is also under contract with us. And then we have a subsequent zoning application. We can talk about it now or later for that. It's about 1.3 acres there up in US 31. My address, home address is 142 Forest Glen Drive, Pike Road, Alabama. Some of you up that way. Many of y'all know John Vallis. He has his property listed. John and I did the Publix together over in Midtown Mobile off Old Shell, and a little more recent than that, Publix out at Tiger Point in Gulf Breeze. When I was with Aronoff Realty not that long ago, we did the Lowe's and the Sam's and the car dealership there at Malbus. Many of y'all are familiar with that too. And my daughter and 2 grandchildren right down US 90 on Bay Branch Estate, so they're just right around the corner. So this is an area that lived in, worked in, very familiar, and appreciate the opportunity to come before you guys tonight. As Casey stated, the application, we've got about 20 acres of R1, I believe, and about 5 acres of B2. Want to convert all of that to highway business B3, which better suits the retail development here that we have in mind. The justification for that, the land use adjacencies, we've got commercial out the front door, out the back door, out the side door, different commercial uses in place and different commercial zonings. Most prominently is the B3 for Rouse's, which would be most comparable, I guess, to the type of retail we could put on the ground here. So we're asking for the Highway B3 zoning. As many of y'all know, Spanish Fort is very desired by a number of the retailers. And we're talking to a whole host of folks, grocery people, broadband retail, from general merchandise, home improvement centers and so forth, any of which can peacefully land within a B3 zoning. That's what they need to support their businesses. All of them look for the zoning today to be in place before they go through an elaborate corporate approval process to approve a site. So we've had as much conversation as we can have, and we will go back to them once, if y'all favor us with a recommendation for zoning and council puts it in place, we can go back and actually conclude those conversations and bring the right retailers and restaurants and such to Spanish Fort. But having the zoning is a precursor to making that happen. So that's why we're before you kind of in this sequence. At the same time, though, we wanted y'all to have site plans. Casey, are y'all able to put some of the site plans up? Just give you an idea, this is a potential broadband retailer, could be general merchandise, could be home improvement. It's about 130,000 foot store, park to corporate criteria. Wanted y'all to know if you zone it, we can fit and develop something like that if we're successful in bringing that retailer to town. We're also talking to a number of grocery stores. If you can flip to that site plan perhaps, we wanted you to see a grocery store. This is more of a grocery store alignment, a slightly smaller box. Again, parking and some ancillary shops and such. But I wanted y'all to know if we do zone it, we have studied it thoroughly. We've done all kind of due diligence and have interest from the retailers and know how we would put them on the ground. So I wanted y'all to be reassured about that. The physical conditions of the property are pertinent here. Casey, can y'all go to the one that kind of zoomed out for me? There we go, that's good. I just wanted to comment, this property back past the depth of the Dollar General, probably about 500 feet, maybe a little more, was physically excavated, literally wrecked in the 1960s. If you walk out there now, it's humpy, bumpy, lumpy. A lot of the good material that was present at one time has been removed from this tract. And our geotech report says only about a third of what's there is actually suitable material. Can't put it under a building, but we put it under a parking lot. So to cure this site is going to require substantial import, magnitude beyond 100,000 cubic yards. It raises the cure cost far beyond what you could do with just single-family residential. 20 acres of single-family residential is probably, 20,000-foot lots, probably 40 lots at most. So the cost of what it takes to cure this property for any kind of development really is, commercial use is the only thing that can really pay for that today. And that's just a consequence of what happened in the 60s. I think the excavation might have even continued into the early 70s. But that's the physical condition of the property. The other thing I want to point out is we have to the residential to the north, which is on the right side, there's that, as many of y'all pointed out, there's that 100-foot physical buffer in the form of a power line tract that's there. That we don't own that. That's not going anywhere. That's permanent, perpetual. Power company has that, and that's substantial separation from our property and the neighborhood to the north that will always be in place. Ryan, if you can slide along, can y'all see the dashed line to the right? Yeah, follow that. There's a stream. That stream outlined in addition to the power line tract buffering from the neighborhood to the north. There's a stream that's permanent wetlands. It's a blue line stream. It's not mitigatable. It's that high quality wetlands that, we could talk to the Army Corps till the cows came home. We're not going to get a permit to change that. So we have the power line tract and a perpetual stream. We have to create I think it's 25 feet on either side of that stream in addition to the physical width of the stream. That will always be there. And then if you see to the left, this is also a blue line stream, and you follow that back, and it widens as you get towards the rear into all that little cross-hatched area. That's all.
We'll be right back.
Okay, all right. I think the button's still live, yeah. It's still live. Okay. Are we good now? You all good to resume? Okay. Yeah, go back if you would. Anyway, you can see the whole rear tract is by and large high quality estuary caliber wetlands that are not mitigatable even if I wanted to do it. And as Casey indicated, we're considering some way to put a conservation easement in place and just preserve that in perpetuity. So we have our adjacencies are a power line buffer and a stream buffer on this side, a stream and wetland buffer from the residential on the other side that we're not crossing, and then the whole rear tract is basically a wetland scenario that'll stay there in perpetuity. And the only real adjacencies we have are to the commercial uses or other commercial zoning, the Dollar General, Cadence Bank, and so forth. So I wanted to point that out. I know many of y'all have mentioned access. That's obvious to us. It's a major intersection, which, customarily that's where the retail hubs end up. That's where traffic does bunch up. And but we have met with DOT, and the access points that you see, the one on US 31 and then the two on Alabama 225, these are all state driveway permits we have to get. So we'll have to submit a traffic analysis to y'all, also to DOT, and we've got an indication of where the points can be, the ultimate lane configuration, how much turn lane, widening, XL, decel, all of that's to be determined, and how long the turn lanes may. The traffic analysis will determine all that. But y'all will be participating in that, and then also DOT, and the ultimate permits do come from the state. But like I say, we're already involved, them, and this plan has arisen from their initial review of where they feel like the driveways could potentially be permitted. So we've gone that far until we can get some zoning in place and go back with an actual development and make an actual driveway permit application. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer as best I can from the board, and if it's allowed, I'm happy to respond to speakers if there's
No,
a question I can answer.
you'll have to address we'll have to address a question to you and you to us.
Okay,
So,
okay.
anybody, any discussion? Any question?
You mentioned getting that property ready for development. I think you stated like 100,000 cubic yards of fill dirt to go in there and get that pad level.
That's very preliminary. Ryan's our engineer, and he's been helping me understand what we're gonna have to do to get, we need suitable fill that you can actually put a building on.
See if you can talk a little bit
Oh, I'm
closer.
sorry, we
I'm
need
sorry.
suitable fill that you can actually put a building on. That's what would be imported. That's what was taken away in the 60s and 70s when this was excavated.
Yeah, have y'all bought this property already?
We have it under contract.
But it is gonna be very expensive to develop, I'm assuming, just kind of overhearing what you're stating. And I think that would be the same case for residential also, but I'm just, I'm concerned with how close these wetlands are, and the area hasn't been developed in such a long time for reasons, right? Based on topo, based on, how tough it was gonna be. We got Dollar General, you got Cadence, they open up to 31. Normally, stuff like this that is planned long-term, all your out partials turn back into that subdivision. We've all back into the development itself. In other words, these cut-through roads, sometimes the frontage we try to eliminate curb cuts out onto the highway when you can. They're already there now. So another issue for me is that traffic. And those curb cuts. I mean, you've got one into Dollar General, you got two into Cadence, right? Is there one into Cadence Bank? I think there's one. But I'm just looking at adding all these curb cuts in this area is a concern of mine.
All right, any other discussion? All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
When we open the public hearing, this isn't going to be a question and answer type situation, so if you have questions, go ahead and state them. We're not going to answer them at that time, but we will try to answer them after the public hearing's closed, okay? All right, public hearing's open. Now, also, I'm probably going to get a lot of these names wrong, so I apologize in the get-go. I believe it's David Lucas. Yeah, okay. And Lisa Lucas, state your
Yes,
name, please,
yes.
and your address.
I'm Lisa Lucas,
David Lucas, and we live on Lee Circle,
9 Lee Circle.
adjacent to the property that's wants to be developed. Our backyard is adjacent to, we're like the fifth property,
The
babe?
house. yeah.
Fifth house off on Lee Circle. And our backyard is adjacent to, I think it's B2, y'all called it?
It's got the wooded, and it's got the ravine,
Ravine.
and I was told when I purchased the home 18 years ago that nobody would be able to build behind there because of the way the land was. I don't know if
Being wetlands.
yeah, I was
That's what-
told that they were wetlands.
And we have a lot of wildlife back there. Our quality of life is beautiful right now. We don't need a ton of traffic. It takes us 15 to 20 minutes just to get out our street on 31, during a weekday or on a Saturday. So it's, to bring more traffic and more stuff into this area is gonna be a nightmare for people that's living there.
We're on a very small circle, so when we pull out of Lee Circle to get onto 31, people are coming off of 98 and coming right over to get over to 225. So it's hard for us to get out or even come in because they're coming around so bad that opening right there between Piggly Wiggly and Walgreens and our street is a nightmare already. I don't understand why we have to use our beautiful land to build another grocery store. We have Rouse's, we have Piggly Wiggly. Our taxes are already going up enough. I hate to develop. I just don't
Yeah.
understand. It's too much traffic, too much clutteredness. Back there, I don't even know if they even walk the land to see it, especially on a rainy day. The ravine is very deep. It's gonna take much more.
It's a lot of drainage
Yeah.
going through that ravine, so.
When they say a 25-foot buffer, I don't think that's gonna be enough, to tell you the honest truth. It's gonna need a lot more than that back there. But anyway,
And to fill in all that wetland, to me, you create more drainage problems. So, and that's all we have to say. We live back there, we don't want to change our quality of life.
I don't want a parking lot or anything in my backyard.
All right, thank y'all.
All right, thank y'all. All right, we have, let's see, is it Mayim Gilroy? Okay.
Hi, I'm Mijame Guillory. I live at 10 Lee Circle, and I am concerned about the traffic. It's bad enough in the mornings trying to get in and out of my subdivision. When he was discussing putting another outlet onto 31, we're never going to get out of Lee Circle. We're going to have to hike the backwoods. I work at Rouse's, and I literally would have to take the backwoods. Y'all have to build me a sidewalk so I can get to work. If I still have a job, since y'all gonna be putting maybe another grocery store right across the street from where I'm at. But my question is, as what they said, I want to reiterate about these ravines. We were told when we purchased the property, these are buffers. If you look behind Dr. Booth's office, which I can see from my backyard, there's a drop-off of 50 feet. I would never want to park back there because I'd be scared to death. I'd just roll right off into this ravine. And I can't imagine how much it's going to take to build this up, and then my yard goes down right now, and if they build up behind me, am I going to be in a flood zone, which I never had to worry about before? But if they have to build it up so high, I'm worried about my property flooding now. Is there going to be any additional drainage, any thought put into that for our little neighborhood, our little Lee Circle that's been there since 1968? Undisturbed? Anyway, that's my question. Traffic and drainage. I've seen what these big subdivisions and shopping centers can do to little tiny neighborhoods. So anyway, please give that some thought. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Susan Nance?
Susan Nance, 30977 Parapet Court. I understand that there are rights when you own a property that you can do certain things on it. However, when I was looking into the city's comprehensive plan that was mentioned that we would be deviating from, that kind of puts residents and city officials on the same page, and so then we think that that's kind of the plan, whether outdated or not. And so for me, when thinking of the plan, there are specific areas that are meant for this type of property. So that's kind of where my mind goes, and also the traffic, how it will work in that area. That's all.
All right, thank you. All right, I believe it's Charlie Pritchard or Pruitt? Yes. that say? Pruitt or?
So we're talking about the traffic as well. And to their point, we do have grocery stores. We've even got the Dollar General there, right? Which, when you're coming off of 31, somebody's gonna stop and turn in there and you're all backed up. We don't need that. We also don't need, when they build that up, we're gonna have drainage problems, okay? On the other side of that road, I understand that they own all that land on this side of 225 and that side of 225. Don't know what's going on the other side, but we've had enough development. That's a 2-lane road, and there's no way to build it up to where we can get in and out. We live in Garrison Ridge, and there's only one way in and one way out. Unless we're gonna put traffic lights up at every intersection and stifle all traffic, I don't know what we're gonna do. We're developing too quick, guys, too quick. That's a strain on our utilities, that's a strain on all of our services, that's a strain on everything. And I understand when you buy the property, it's yours to do with as you want, as long as it's within reason. I'm just saying, let's think about the folks that actually live here and pay the taxes and whatnot. That's all I'm saying. Mike?
I just want to say I agree with the gentleman that said it's difficult to develop. There's a reason it's not developed a lot now. I don't know anything about engineering, I'm not an engineer, but I know that when you fill that in, somebody's getting flooded. So my question is, which one of y'all do I come to when we get flooded out because they built that in the drainage area? Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we have Brad Bass.
Good evening, Brad Bass. I'm on Commander Court in Garrison Ridge, just to the north of the power line there. I would really just echo, I think, what everybody's kind of already said around traffic. Traffic is a nightmare as it is right there along 225, in addition to 31 that you guys deal with Lee Circle. I think the biggest issue we're going to have to worry about, regardless of what goes in here, whether it's more grocery, home improvement, whatever it is, you've already got space that now potentially is going to end up closing. And what's going to happen to that space? What happens to the Rouse's if it has to go out of business? What happens to Piggly Wiggly? Those are now old buildings that are going to be eyesores that are tough to fill in. We've got a tremendous amount of property by Bass Pro Shop that is sitting right now empty, undeveloped, that is 50 years newer than the Piggly Wiggly building. So if we can't fill that up, what's going to happen to the Piggly Wiggly building or the Rouse's building when they're out of business because of Walmart or Publix or whatever this potentially could be? I know the comprehensive plan runs out next year, but it is a plan for a reason. And we've got all that space in other areas. There's really no reason, in my opinion, to put that there. I think the other thing to think about, aside from traffic pattern, is not just those big small businesses, but the other ones. When you talk about Ace Home Improvement, that's a small business, family owned. Medicap Pharmacy, what happens when another pharmacy is now put in this retail location? You're thinking about losing those folks that have been pillars of this community for years. So you guys would keep that in mind when making your decision, obviously moving forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Shannon Barnes.
Hello. Okay. I'm Shannon Barnes. I live at 30791 Commander Court. That's Lot 6. If there was an aerial view, you could see the parcel. We are the first cul-de-sac, and my backyard basically backs up to the easement, the power line easement. One of the things when we bought that house, one of the saving graces for me, because we were backed up to a power line easement, were all the trees in the forest. So now I can only imagine when they do develop, or if they were to develop, what we would be looking at in our backyard. Our house is built on a slope, so in the backyard, when we go out on the porch, we are up high. So all we're gonna see is buildings. It's gonna affect the sound, all the lights, and everything like that. That's just on a personal perspective from me. I do think that traffic is gonna be an issue because it already is kind of an issue right now. I know that whenever I go to Parvin Animal Clinic for something, and then I'm trying to get out, so all the people that live on Lee Circle, that is horrible trying to get out. You actually have to go right, take a U-turn, all the people coming out over there by Piggly Wiggly. Also, in addition to that, I think that what was mentioned before with the Bass Pro Shop that was built years and years ago, there's a lot of that space that needs to be developed or leased out or anything like that. And I know that what they're wanting to do here is purchase, develop, build, sell, or whatever they're wanting to do. But in our community, we need to fill up the spaces that are vacant right now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Bryant Thompson?
How about now? There we go. Hello, my name is Brian Thompson. I live on Parapet Court, and my backyard backs straight up to, in Garrison Ridge, backs straight up to this proposed development. And when we purchased the house, we were pretty well assured that nothing else could go in there except for other homes. That's what it was designed for, and that's what it's there for. And now then we're finding out that there's talk of trying to develop this into a B3 business district. And this is straight out of the Spanish Fort zoning. What a B3 business district is intended to provide opportunity for activity causing noise and heavy traffic, and considered compatible, but not considered compatible with more restricted districts. This use also serves as a regional and well as a local market and required location to proximity to major transportation routes. That to me sounds like it's going to be a traffic nightmare. We're already across the street from the elementary school, and we already have a crossing guard that's there every morning and usually in the afternoon. There are issues of getting back to there. When you're coming off of 98 to get to 225, there's only there's quickly a few lanes of traffic that you have to traverse before you can get over, and it's not always easy, nor is it safe. But this is the reason that we developed Bass Pro. This is the reason the Bass Pro Shop area was there. These businesses were designed to go into that area. The businesses that you're trying to change now are designed for homes. And my question is always, when I listen to this, why do we need another grocery store? Why do we need another anchor place? Why do we need another home improvement area when we already have those in our area and in our zone? The noise is going to be an issue all the time if you put in something, or if you permit this to go in, when this is designed to be a place for homes, and for homes that are compatible for this area. Guys, ladies, I thank y'all for listening to us, and I hope y'all can take that into consideration. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, Joshua, is it Titford or?
Good evening, Planning Commission. I'm Josh Titford. I live at 16 General Robert E. Lee Circle, and I wanted to let you know I did not receive the certified letter. I saw a couple different notes were left, but if I wasn't friendly with my neighbor, I would not know about this tonight. So I just wanted to let you know, he was talking about the Bass Pro Shop. I'm a songwriter, and I helped co-write a song about Red Clay Hills, and it was about the development down there, Bass Pro Shop. But you know, I worked at the city of Fairhope, and it's kind of a similar thing I experienced down there with the Fly Creek, you know, and it comes to mind when you talk about the development and the environmental impact. And I'm here tonight just to be a voice of the wetlands, and you know, those creatures don't have a voice here today, and I feel like it's really important that we don't really know our impact on the environment until it's too late. And you know, human beings, they're going to do what they're going to do, right? But I think we need to keep that in mind as it concerns, you know, how does it impact us environmentally? For instance, light pollution, noise pollution. And then another thing that is not really brought up today, which is very important, I've been a lifelong resident of this area, is that people don't grasp that these trees' roots really do lock the red clay in place. When you remove that, you get a lot more erosion. And I think that's just a disaster waiting to happen with those wetlands back there. And I do appreciate the gentleman's development over there at the Publix in Midtown, you know, where they had the little lattice parking spaces so that the drainage could seep into the soil. But I've not seen anything like that on the Eastern Shore yet, and it concerns me quite a bit. When I bought the house, I also was assured it was a bird sanctuary behind where I live, and I just wanted to say, you know, they're crazy drivers. I work in Mobile, and they might as well call that the Causeway 500 in the morning, because when I pull out of Lee Circle headed west, you know, I've seen there's been no car coming along in the lane on the right-hand side going westbound on Highway 31. And as soon as I pulled out, you know, almost got rear-ended one morning, somebody just driving that fast and just zooming out of the left lane right into the right lane. So I just wanted to speak my mind, and thank you very much for allowing me a chance to speak. But the one question I have for y'all is, what is the purpose of having a comprehensive plan if, you know, it's not going to get, you know, nobody's going to stick to it? Because to me, it just like sets up a slippery slope. You know, what's next? What's going to come next? So thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Mike McDuffie? Okay, you've already spoke. Okay. All right, that's it. Anybody else wish to speak that hadn't signed up?
Hey, Tom DeSanti, I live in Parapet Court, so my backyard would essentially be box seats for whatever's going to be built here. If we look at D.R. Horton that absorbed the remaining space from J.C. Penney, they paid pennies on the dollar for that commercial lease. So if we can't occupy Bass Pro, why would a developer come in and spend millions to develop land that really nobody wants to have developed? So I think that's the bigger question. I don't think we have a Publix coming into Spanish Fort when from exactly at Dollar General, you have a Publix 2.1 miles in one direction and like 1.9 miles the other direction. So, and that's on top of 2 grocery stores. We're not going to put a Lowe's right next to a Lowe's. We're not going to put a Home Depot right next to a Home Depot. So there's obviously, you know, a plan there. You know, we use all these shell companies to hide what we're really doing. We don't know. Is that going to be a super Walmart? We have no clue. Is that going to be a rehab for people that have drug and alcohol addiction? We don't know. And I think that's what really scares everybody the most. But one would go back to Bass Pro, like, you know, Brad mentioned, why are we not developing in there? We spent all that money there. So I have a 1-year-old daughter. When we built our house in Garrison Ridge, we spent a lot of money to build in Spanish Fort. We came from crime-ridden Mobile. I mean, there's a lot of crime in Mobile. We relocated over here. We spent almost $700,000 building a house to be able to take our child and walk them safely across the street to the elementary school. So now we have a hill there, although the hill's always been there, which causes, a traffic issue. But what's going to happen next? I mean, none of you guys live right there, none of you guys and girls. So I encourage you to take your children or your grandchildren or find a kid somewhere and walk them across the street and do you feel like your kid or your grandkid would be safe? And the answer to that is no. That's why we have a crossing guard cop. I don't mean to be derogatory. I don't know the professional name. And I know every year, everybody in Garrison Ridge doesn't donate, puts money in a pot to give to this gentleman because we appreciate what he does every year for our children. Our child's 1, so obviously not in school yet, and we still donate. I would encourage, before we agree to rezone this, to take your kids over there and walk it and try to figure it out. Go to Parvin Animal Clinic and try to figure out how to get out. You can't. So at the end of the day, you can't get out, and if these guys already said it's 100 cubic something, another of truckloads, why would we spend all that money? They've told us it's not profitable to put houses there. I mean, they've told us that. But everybody that lives in Garrison Ridge that have said the same story, JBL Homes has told everybody from the beginning of time, they looked at that land when they were buying all that land in that neighborhood of 2005, 2006, and JBL Homes said, man, it's residential only. You'll never be able to make any money building in there, so we didn't want to buy it. We built the land that became Garrison Ridge. These guys have came out and said, honestly, we can't make any money building houses in there. So if you can't make money building houses there, let's rezone it. But what are we going to rezone for that you can't put in Bass Pro Shop? So, I mean, I think the question is, what's really coming? Is this another example of, in Bass Pro, nobody really knew that was a rehab clinic going up for drug and alcohol. They don't have a sign. It's a very nice looking building. Anybody driving by thinks it could be a restaurant. Boom, one day we find out we have drug and alcohol people just in our backyard. And the council kind of allowed that, which isn't cool. So that's all I have. I don't mean to be disrespectful. Just encourage all of you to take your kids, grandchildren, or find a kid and walk across the street and see if you feel that's safe. See if you feel that your lifetime investment, your home, is going to now be massively devalued because we're going to put a Walmart up or a methadone clinic. I mean, there's just only limited options that can go there, and we've danced around what it could be. It's not Publix. It's not Home Depot. What's left? It's not the guy that owns Ace Hardware that lives in the community. He's not building a bigger facility. It's something. So thank you guys for your time. Have a great night.
All right, thank you. All right, public hearing is closed. We'll open it up for discussion.
Kurt, I was going to ask you, I know I've talked to the mayor a little bit about our malfunction junction with the traffic issues that are coming off of 225, trying to get to 225. How many accidents has we've had? It's just it's a problem. We've known it's a problem for a long time, and I think there's a study going on right now about connecting some, trying to get rid of one of the lights there at that intersection. I know the mayor's has given me I've seen a couple emails and some sketches about trying to get Spanish Fort Estates entrance and 90 entrance lined up, how that could happen behind the marathon, something to that effect. But do you know anything else about where that study is?
I don't think I think any of that might have been too preliminary to be discussed at council, really. He may have shared something with you that I'm not aware of. David, are you aware?
I think that ALDOT's always looking in those areas to try and figure out ways to improve traffic flow. I know that there's been some discussions at Eastern Shore Metropolitan Planning Organization regarding continued improvements along 31 in that area and also extending it, some improvements further to the east even. but there's been no plans submitted to the city officially or otherwise. I think it's just all in the study phase at the moment.
So it tells me it's definitely a long way off, and we do have a major problem with the traffic coming, so many accidents, people trying to cross over and get 225. I know a lot of times I'll end up just going down 31 and coming 72 to try to get back to 225 because you just can't cross over. Just want to bring that up for discussion, but
I would add, just for a little bit of clarity, Kevin, some of that plan could be sooner than later. And what I mean by that is all of those discussions that I'm aware of are part based upon the proposed plan for the bridge, the new bridge to come across, how that's going to impact the causeway, causeway improvements that have already been approved for the NPO that I know the mayor's been working on and waiting on AlDOT to work. So some of those things are part of that planning process as well.
so just to open it up for you guys, I know where we used to have the little car dealership, the front partial that's right by the Parvin, I don't have a problem with rezoning that, and it's going to be contiguous and match what's up there on 31. Going further from Dollar General over, I'm not necessarily for rezoning that. Like I said before, I think we got areas in the city that are vacant and are ready for something like this, need to be something like this, and I'm just not for taking this property and putting all that on it.
All right, any other discussion?
I made some notes, and just before I even start, I'll just make a comment. It's always good to see people come out. Y'all don't come out when we're talking about not fun stuff, but thank y'all for being here, and sincerely, I want to maybe respond to just a couple of things that I heard. Number one, the good news is we all live here. I take my dog to Parvin, and it's hard to get in and out of there, I know, and I appreciate that. As I think about traffic, I live on the other end of town, up past Publix, up 31, and we're having a lot of traffic problems up there. But it's not from retail; it's from neighborhoods that are going in. And I just want to let everybody, just to make sure everybody's understanding. Right now, someone could go in and build homes in there, probably build at least 150 homes. I'm thinking, if I'm not wrong, and then that traffic is
Excuse me, we're not.
Well, so let's just say there could be 100 homes going there. That's going to cause some traffic as well, and it's going to be at the times of day when everybody else is traveling as well. So that's, just a thought, and that doesn't take any action from us to allow somebody to do that. But another couple of things. I know there were questions about drainage and that really comes at a later stage. This is just to discuss whether or not it's appropriate to zone that for that property for this use. But those are good questions, and those do get addressed as we see site plans and so forth go into place, as well as traffic studies. We would have to see that before anything could be before earth could be moved and bricks be laid. So. I was moved by some of the comments about the wetlands and the conservation concerns, and I am thinking I'm right in hearing that the developer had a plan to designate a lot of the property behind or to the west of where they would build as reserved, conservation reserve. So that's a good thing. But I'm also moved by the statements about the comprehensive plan. For those of you that bought recently, just real nearby, you bought knowing that what you saw was that would be residential. So I've got a lot of mixed feelings going into this, but I think right now I'm more moved by just the fact that you guys came out and if this is if you've moved into that adjoining neighborhood recently thinking that, well, this was going to be residential, then we need to be fair about that. Like Kevin said, this is that's what the comprehensive plan said, and at some point we will revisit our comprehensive plan, and maybe our minds will be changed at that point.
All right, any other discussion?
you know, it kind of goes back to what happened with Moss Creek and, or Moss, was it Moss Creek? On 225 Moss Ridge. There was definitely blind spots on the road. It was very, very difficult topo to develop that subdivision. We were always hoping nothing would come in there, and it hasn't for years and years and years. And I think the public coming out speaking on that situation gave the developer some hesitancy and to move forward. We turned down apartments on that property at one time, and we knew that a subdivision was eventually going to be planned in there, but it always helps the public come out and speak, so.
Any other discussion? All right, if anybody makes a motion, keep in mind this is would be a recommendation to the city council. Ultimately, they will have to say so whether or not this gets rezoned or not. All right, any other discussion? All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend it, and then we'll take a vote. So I'll say let's forward a positive recommendation for the rezoning.
All right, do we have a second?
On agenda item 240905. Is that the right?
Excuse me, that's 04.
04. Okay.
All right, do we have a second? I'll second. Any discussion on the motion? All right, roll call, Kurt.
Gant,
Yes.
Lemoyne,
No.
Diamond,
No.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Lindsay. No. Smith,
No.
Nelson,
No.
Lazenby.
Motion's failed. All right, we'll move along. David, you got a comment?
So this will be reported to the commission that a motion was made to recommend approval, and that motion failed. So the recommendation at that point in time is to be that it not be rezoned.
All right. All right,
Just so
we'll move
everybody
along.
knows, that'll be reported to the city council. There'll be another public hearing at the city council level, at which time the city council makes the ultimate decision on whether to rezone or not.
Y'all, they will have a public hearing at the city council level, so y'all have an opportunity to speak again to the city council, but we're sending them a negative recommendation, okay? All right. Let's see, next agenda item is 240905, application for zoning change. We'll have a public hearing on this agenda item. This is from a B2 to a B3. This is 6625 Spanish Fork Boulevard. The applicant is Southeast Acquisitions LLC on behalf of Platt Investments LLC. Casey, your staff report, please, sir.
Mr. Chairman, this applicant's requesting a zoning change from the current B2 local business to B3 general business in order to develop the site along with parcels to the north as part of a larger commercial development. A list of potential uses identified for this parcel have been given as oil change facility, restaurant, or retail use. The applicant has submitted 2 preliminary potential site layouts for the development of the subject properties, which we've been over in the previous agenda item. The existing conditions within the vicinity of the subject property are typically local, general business, and higher type uses. Due to the existing uses in the surrounding area, the impact of the overall development is unclear at this time, although development of the site will require at a minimum traffic impact analysis in coordination with ALDOT and confirmation of serviceability from utility providers. The subject property is identified on the comprehensive plan's future land use map as professional and local business, meaning a change to the proposed zoning would be a deviation from the current version of the comprehensive plan in the area.
All right, thank you, Casey. We'll open it up for discussion.
Just quick clarity, we're only talking about the yellow parcel, right, Casey?
I'm sorry?
Just the yellow parcel.
Yes, that's just for that parcel on US Highway 31 now.
And it's adjacent to about half a lot, there's a house right there, just so I know what's next to it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other discussion? All right, we'll open up our public hearing. Anybody here wish to speak on this agenda item? Okay, yeah, you want to come up?
Yes, again, John Argo with Southeast Capital Partners. We own the Southeast Acquisitions. This is the applicant. This is a separate ownership. Mickey Platt's group owns it, Platt LLC. We have a separate purchase contract for this parcel, which is a separate contract from the previous one we just addressed. So I just want you all to be aware of that. Property fronts on US 31. It actually has two driveways to US 31, and in discussions with AlDOT, we would be relinquishing one of those 2 permitted driveways. So the access to US 31 actually is reduced from what's there now. We have a number of uses, coffee, a couple of fast food restaurant types that require drive-through services, an oil change. There are several others that are interested in locating, obviously, at a high traffic node on US 31. We've got B3 highway business type uses adjoining us. So we have B3 zoning immediately adjacent to us at the traffic light. We feel like this zoning would be compatible with the uses that are present and with the zoning that's present. And again, any driveway we put here will be permitted through the state Alabama Department of Transportation. Like I say, we're reducing here from 2 driveways to 1 ultimately. And the configuration of that driveway, right in, right out, is probably going to be the way it will end up, I think. There's, at one time, there was actually full access here. I think the DOT made some temporary accommodation for the church across the way, and whether or not there can be opposing left turns there into both properties is still to be decided as part of the traffic analysis. That would be addressed then. And I'm trying to think, the utilities are there. Do we have, can we borrow your pointer again? Do you have the pointer? Just real quick. Casey, are you able to put the site plan up at all? I don't know if we can zoom in. We did a conceptual site plan, so it might help. Are we able to zoom in on that or not? I don't know if we can. You can go ahead. If you see, we're showing a small building there with basically a service window and drive-through type. To the left of the driveway, here, that area between there and you mentioned the house. Between there, there's the clinic that's there. That area is completely occupied by a sanitary sewer lift station, excuse me, and then the little kick-out area is all a big drainage culvert right there. None of that area will be changed as part of the development. It'll remain as a lift station and as stormwater culvert. So the immediately adjacent residential won't see a change of function there. Excuse me. I think that's all I have. Okay,
Thank you. All right, anybody else on the public hearing wish to speak? Excuse me, if you go over there and sign in, please. All right, David Lucas.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to say one thing. We're talking about putting a oil change place right here. Is that what you're saying? If it is, there's one about a mile down the road, not even a half a mile down the road. And it's already a nightmare, the traffic in this area. Why are we gonna keep adding businesses when we have tons of businesses on 31, 98, 181, Bass Pro? We have tons of businesses, tons of vacant buildings in Melvis Mall, Bass Pro Shop. Why are we keeping building stuff around here? It's taking away the quality of life for everybody around here. And I'm just asking y'all to please just take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, public hearing's closed. We'll open it up for discussion.
Well, this is one of those situations where it was already kind of zoned for business. Bottom line is it's a man's property and it's zoned for it's zone B2. I know in the past when people have come before us wanting to change to a little bit more of a lenient business district, we've gotten a good feel for what they were going to put on it. Prime examples out in front of Publix when they put the express oil change out in front of that B3. It's B2 now and B3, and we just kind of got a range of ideas that you might want to put on it. So it is contiguous with a B3, but B3, from B2 to B3 means more traffic. So I know at that intersection right now what a problem we have, and I'm just reluctant to go more traffic. I don't have a problem with B2, but B2, he's got a lot of options. With B2, you still got many, many options of what you want to put on it. So I'm a little bit negative going right now until we get that intersection fixed. And I don't know when it's going to be, but it needs some work, and I think hopefully in the next 5 years we get something done with that intersection. But I'm a little bit negative on going another lenient zoning.
So for discussion, since we're talking about traffic, is there a big difference between B2 and B3 traffic? Or is it more dependent on the type of business that's there?
It would depend on the type of business that's there. Many of the uses that he mentioned as a possibility would be allowed potentially in B2, either by right or with planning commission approval. The automotive type businesses, oil change, convenience store, those kind of things with gas dispensing or dealing with those type are required to be in B3, I believe. But it really just depends on the type of business. For example, in local business B2, you can have an accounting office. I believe you can also have a restaurant. Is that right, Casey?
Yeah, I believe a restaurant's allowed by planning commission approval in B2.
All right, planning commission approval in B2. But I say that to say, to show that even within B2 itself, the number of trips that are generated is based on the use that the property is put to. You know, an accounting office may have 4, 5, or 6 employees, may have 10 or 12 people come in a day. A restaurant allowed there could have 200 or 300 trips a day, depending on the type of restaurant that it is, those kind of things. So, not only is it the B2 classification, it's the specific type of use that it's going to be made to the property. But those are all considerations, again, that you need to make and consider. A lot of times we use B2 as a transition between residential, going into more general business district. You have that there. This is one of those things where it's, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of discretion. That's why you're appointed in this situation. This is not an easy decision to make. But there are many uses that he did list that could, under certain circumstances, be allowed in B2.
And B2 just gives us an extra layer of right to look at what he wants to do and say yes or no. B2 is going to give us that ability. And I'm just saying, based on that intersection right there, I want that control.
All right. Any other discussion?
I'm curious about why they wanted to go to B3. If a lot of the stuff they could or interested in, you can do it in B2. Why then ask for B3? I agree with Kevin a lot, but I also agree that people have a right to have their land and to make money out of it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I am just curious about that.
Well, the developer would have to speak for themselves regarding that, but I did hear one thing on the previous application, and I can tell you from doing this type of work and people coming, again, you can have a restaurant in B2, but it's with planning commission approval. And a lot of times the national change and these kind of folks are wanting to know what they can do by right as opposed to what they can do by discretion, so they can know whether or not to buy the property or what to do. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't get the answer they want. It just means they need to submit a site plan in B2 if a restaurant's what they want, and see if they can get approval that way. But that's probably the main reason, is that B3 gives more flexibility to do the same type uses, but it's by right as opposed to having to come through an approval process.
All right. Any other discussion? All right, discussion's closed. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we give a positive recommendation to the City Council for Agenda Item 240905, application for a zoning change from B2 to B3.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All right, roll call. Carol, please.
Gant,
Yes.
Lemoyne,
Yes.
Diamond,
No.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Lindsay. Smith,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Lazenby.
All right, motion's approved.
Again, Mr. Chairman, that'll be a recommendation to the City Council. There'll be a public hearing at the City Council as well, and the City Council will ultimately determine whether or not the property will be rezoned.
We'll move along now. We have new business, agenda item 241001, application for site plan approval. Casey, I believe we're postponing this due to the deficiencies in their site plan, significant deficiencies. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that would be our recommendation.
All right. Anybody here representing this agenda item come in since the meeting started? No? Okay. All right, we have agenda item 241002, application for land use. This is temporary use for seasonal pumpkin sales. It's at 10810 U.S. Highway 31. The applicant is Chase Smith on behalf of Island Pumpkins, LLC. Casey, your staff report, please, sir.
Mr. Chairman, this applicant is proposing to utilize the parcel of land at 10810 U.S. Highway 31, where David's Catfish House is currently located, in order to set up and operate a temporary use for the seasonal sale of pumpkins. The subject property was recently rezoned by the Planning Commission and City Council from R1 to B3 General Business. The existing use of the subject property as a restaurant is not proposed to be changed at this time. The table of permitted uses and conditions found in section 6.4 of the City zoning ordinance does allow temporary uses, including the sale of Christmas trees, seasonal fruit and vegetables from roadside stands, and similar uses by Planning Commission approval in B2 and B3 zoning, and by right in M1 zoning.
All right, thank you, Casey. All right, we'll open it up for discussion. Discussion's closed. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, the only thing that I would suggest that you consider, which we've always done on temporary or seasonal, is a time limitation as part of that motion. I know that they want to be selling pumpkins for Halloween, I guess. So that would be present to end when? Is there anybody here for the applicant?
This agenda item? No.
I don't think. I would suggest that that if you're going to give them a temporary.
Can we just do 30 days from board approval?
I just would say, would recommend that you give approval through the end of November. That way they'd cover Thanksgiving, Halloween, any type of use, I think, for what they're proposing, since it's a temporary use.
So whoever makes a motion will put a time frame on it, all right? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion we approve agenda item 241002 for temporary use of seasonal pumpkin sales from right now, October, and then all the way through the end of November.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All right, roll call, Carol, please.
Gant,
Yes.
Lemoyne,
Yes.
Diamond,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Lindsay, Smith,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Lazenby.
Yes.
All right, motion's approved.
Mr. Chairman, we'll check with the applicant just to make sure, but I think that was more than the amount of time that they needed. But if for some reason Christmas pumpkin sales become a big thing, we'll come back and extend that time frame.
Excuse me, we have agenda item 241003, application for zoning change. We'll have a public hearing on this agenda item. This is from an R1 to a partial zoning of R3B. Location is Wayside Drive, south of Christian Fellowship Tabernacle. The applicant is the Woodlands Group. On behalf of Christian Fellowship Tabernacle, Casey, your staff report, please, sir.
Mr. Chairman, this applicant is requesting a partial zoning change from the current R1 low-density single-family residential to R3B, which is single-family patio and garden home district, in order to subdivide the rezoned portion of the existing lot into 2 additional residential lots for a total of 3 lots in the proposed subdivision. The existing use of the property as a church is intended to remain unchanged at this time. The area of the lot proposed for the change in zoning is equal to 10,312 square feet, according to a recent survey submitted by the applicant. The remainder of the lot to remain R1 zoning is equal to 32,918 square feet, and the use of this area as a church is not proposed to change at this time. The existing conditions within the vicinity of the subject property are typically local business type uses and single-family residential. Subdivision of new lots to this size would be a deviation from the lot sizes in the immediate vicinity and a minor increase in allowable maximum density available. Subject property is identified on the comprehensive plan's future land use map as churches, meaning a change to the proposed zoning would be a deviation from the current version of the comprehensive plan in this area, although technically we do not have a zoning specifically for churches because they're allowed in most zonings, I guess.
All right, thank you, Casey. All right, we'll open it up for discussion.
I just have a problem, I would say, with the setting the precedent for that area, that the lots that exist there, the residential lots, are much larger, and I don't know, and just sticking with the comprehensive plan and so forth, I think it would be a mistake, regretfully, to approve this.
I have a general question. Is there something from stopping, if they just want to put 2 tiny homes on there, not go through a zoning, is that allowed or is that not allowed?
They're asking for rezoning. This is rezoning.
But you can't just put 2 properties on there.
The property is zoned R1, so the minimum lot size for R1 is
20,000 square feet?
20,000 square feet. R2 minimum lot size is 15,000 square feet. They're showing, they're asking for 2 50-foot lots, 100-foot long, basically, or about 5,000 square feet. So the only way that you can get those size lots is by going to R3B, I think it is, for rezone, and so the only way to get that's by rezoning.
Let me restate it. If we woke up tomorrow and there was 2 tiny homes plopped down on that land, without zoning, without anything, is that allowed?
No, you'd have to you get 1 single-family dwelling per lot. So that whole, for example, that whole church property right now is zoned R1. You have 1 house on that whole lot. In order to build more than 1 house, you'd have to either subdivide. We do have, depending on the size, either 3 or 5 acres, you can have a primary dwelling and a secondary dwelling under certain circumstances. I'm not sure that lot would qualify. But in order to build more than 1 house on that whole property, which is zoned R1 presently, you'd have to subdivide it.
So there's no definition loophole where you put something down, a barn home, or whatever these different names are of homes, nothing, there's no loophole. This is the only path. You have to? Okay.
Yeah, it would require that it be rezoned.
Okay.
I mean, the only other possibility that you could have to create more than 1 dwelling on a lot would be like a duplex, triplex, something like that. But again, that would require multifamily zoning, a different zoning classification than even R3B. R3B still is single-family dwellings.
To be clear, we're not granting a new subdivision for these 2 5,000-foot lots tonight. We're just doing the rezoning.
Yeah, the only thing
This is just what he's thinking about doing, right?
Yes, sir,
that
that's
would
correct.
have to be another meeting.
Yes, sir, that's correct. The only thing that's happening tonight is that you are hearing the request to rezone that portion of the property that's shaded to R3B, and that would be a recommendation to the city council. The city council then would also have a public hearing and make a determination whether or not to rezone. If the city council did rezone it, then he would still only be able to build 1 house on that lot unless he came back and submitted a subdivision plat to divide it into 2, which is what he proposes to do.
So that's not a single parcel. right now? It's not, or is it it is a dedicated parcel?
Today, that kind of upside down L shape you see there is all one parcel.
Right, I understand that. That's just kind of odd that he would rezone a portion of it and not the rest of it without it being a one lot.
Yeah, we don't
already
normally do that. There's nothing in the zoning ordinance that prohibits it from happening. But in this case, because he wants to have a mixture of uses, and what I mean by that is they still want to retain the church use. And I believe churches are allowed in any zoning classification with planning commission approval, but that's a grandfathered use that was in there before the city became a city. What he's asking to do is rezone a portion of it, so they've submitted a legal description showing that. And so we are allowed to do that. Again, though, before he could actually use it for any purpose, he'd have to come back in and subdivide it out because it's still all one parcel. When the subdivision, if it came, there'd be 3 lots created. The lot where the church is, and then the 2 lots where the houses are.
I believe we have the owners of the developer here. Do you wish to address the commission before we open our public hearing? Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. That was very, very helpful. And I appreciate it. Really, the church, they have their little piece of earth here, and they're just trying to utilize it to the best of their ability to accomplish their goals. And this is the path to that for them. So we just ask respectfully that you consider making a recommendation to the city council for approval.
I remember the church coming before us. Carl, you might help my old memory here, but we've turned them down before on, and I can't remember what it was that they were actually coming to request. Do you remember that, David? That's been several years ago. They came before us for some kind of, I don't know if it was zoning. It might have been that they wanted to add on to the building or something, and they were crossing over setbacks. They were doing some stuff that we had some issues with, I remember. And showing my age, but that goes back quite a while. And I would like to help them out here. My only issue is that there's people that live all down Wayside Drive now with R1 and R2 lots. I would lean for R2 in a situation like this, just to kind of stay within the proximity of some of the other property back there. The thing that we've done before when this zoning was requested would be an entire subdivision that you see them quite often coming in the back of other subdivisions for like the mother-in-law and grandparents moving back in the back of Timber Creek or the back of Rock Creek. We've done that in a whole area of subdivision before, but just for the 2 lots, I'm having trouble with that just because of all the other property that's back there that are large lots. And people, the first thing they're going to say is, they come to the city and say, why did you do this? I have a very large lot with a nice big home back here, and you're putting patio homes on my same street.
May I address that? I do see your point there, and my response to that would be that the R3B is actually kind of viewed as a transitional zoning to where you're transitioning from larger R1, R2 settings toward commercial type uses, which is, even though it's technically zone R1, the church is a commercial functioning body as well as everything else along that strip. So it's kind of like it's the ideal transitional zoning for this scenario from R1, R2 into commercial stuff.
All right, anybody else?
I would throw this out there. I always want, and I'll say it at the city council level too, I always want the planning commission and city council always to know all the options and arsenal that they have in making decisions. One of the concerns, like it's been mentioned, is that they're proposing to take this lot and break it into 2 lots here. R3B, that's what I was asking for, allows for a 40-foot lot width and a 4,000 square foot lot size. And I think right here, they've got about 10,000 square feet, right? Yes, sir. And so just trying to be sympathetic a little bit here you know, again, they could divide this. The concern was that even this piece right here, it shows you then this property owner could arguably take that part out, and then you've got a place right here that you have another lot or two, and then that trend could just kind of continue down the street for different people, and that's the concern that we have. On the other side, you know, having one lot come out of this for R3A allows a 10,000 square foot minimum lot width and a 70-foot lot width. Here, you'd have a 100-foot lot width. While it wouldn't have the same size as these other places from the road, you wouldn't be able to tell that much. I mean, so that could potentially be an option if you wanted to have some concession to try and help out the church to generate some money by selling some land. You know, a house on this, one house on this piece would look similar to what you see here, similar to what you see here and here. Just a thought. I'll throw that out there to you for what that's worth.
All right, thank you, David.
So just for clarification, the vote or the recommendation tonight is just the speckled part, just for that. We're not saying, yes, it's going to be subdivided. We're just saying
that it could be subdivided into that zoning classification. That's all we're doing.
Well, we're not saying anything could be subdivided.
No, we're not doing no subdivision.
Okay.
But no property lines, we're just making a zoning change.
The reason we included that, we just want to be forthcoming with what we're doing. That's why we included the subdivision, and, you know, with the zoning request, but this is just a zoning request.
So several, maybe a year or so ago or longer, we did write into the zoning ordinance that the City Council and Planning Commission had the authority to recommend a more restrictive zoning classification. I'm not trying to talk you out of it one way or the other. I just want you to know your tools. If you feel comfortable with making a recommendation for R3B, then you can make that recommendation. If you feel more comfortable making a recommendation for R3A, you can make that recommendation. Or if you say that it shouldn't be rezoned at all and should stay R1, that's another option that you have. I just want to let you know what those options are.
I apologize. Could you go back real quickly? R3A would give them what, and then R3B gives them the two 5,000-foot lots?
R3B, the minimum lot size requirement in R3B is 4,000 square feet, and then the minimum lot width is 40 feet, minimum lot width. I haven't done this exactly, but I'm thinking y'all have right at 10,000 square feet here. 10,300. So they could fit in two lots and make that work and meet the minimum lot size requirements in R3B. R3A, the minimum lot size requirement is 10,000 square feet. They have 10,300 square feet in this square, and the minimum lot width is 70, but they have 100 foot across the front. So if you decided to recommend a R3B instead of nothing, like I said, your options are don't rezone it, leave it as R1 like it is. 2, the application has requested that it be rezoned to the R3B to allow for 2 lots. If you wanted to give them something of a residential use so they could sell a portion of the property, another option would be R3A. And then by right, if it was rezoned to R3A, they could have 1 lot on that piece.
All right, any other discussion? All right, do I have a motion? Excuse, I'm sorry, we didn't have our public hearing yet. Before we have a motion, would, if anybody here wishes to speak, please come up and sign in. Yeah. All right, we'll open our public hearing now. Karen Pager.
Can you hear me? Okay. I'm Karen Pager, and my husband and I have parcels 18 and 1920 directly behind these future fire station one. We're currently behind the current fire station. And I don't know if we're opposed or not opposed to anything. We're trying to understand what that would do to us and the rest of the street, having multi-family, and what is proposed to go there. We'd like to have, something to see. Is that going to be 2 tiny homes, as y'all expressed earlier? Is it going to be a tiny apartment? I mean, what is going to be put there? We'd like some consideration for, the future fire station across the street, as well as us adjacent to them.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, Charles Powell.
So the yellow area there, who owns that? The church does. Okay. And so by subdividing that, cutting that part off, that gives them land to sell? Is that what I'm
Excuse me,
understanding?
you need to address your questions to the commission, please.
Okay. So they're wanting to subdivide that part to sell land for profit. Is that what I understand?
And we'll try to answer your questions after the public hearing. Okay.
Okay. I'm trying to understand what was happening here, but okay. So the yellow area is owned by the church, and they're wanting to cut that portion off and add it to the other to subdivide and build houses. Is that what they're doing? Okay. That's their land. I wanted to clarify. That's all. I didn't understand what was going on. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll try to address a few of these questions now. It cannot be multi-use, it cannot be multifamily. It would be 2, if this was to go through, they would be allowed to build 2 individual homes, most likely patio-size homes on that piece of property. The public hearing's closed, so, but that's what would be allowed there, and that's what they're wanting to do is take part of that property. We wouldn't be subdivided. This isn't a subdivision tonight. This is just to rezone it, possibly, so they would be able to subdivide it if they wanted to do that down the road. And then they would be able to only put 2 homes there. At this point, with it being R1, they could put 1, or if we rezoned it to the R3A, I believe it is, then it would also only be 1. Okay? I hope that answered y'all's questions. All right, any discussion with the commission?
Just to clarify what you just said, you said if it stayed R1, that they could put 1 home. It would be 1 home on the existing lot where the church is, not on that small section that's checkerboarded there.
Let me make sure I'm clear about that, so we're all on the same page, if that's okay, because I think I brought that up, and I'll make sure we're clear about that. Right now, there's 1 lot that the church is located on, and it's R1, which means single-family residential. So on that whole lot, the L everything, if the church wasn't there, you have 1 house. And so what they're proposing to do is to subdivide the property and take the portion that they're requesting to be rezoned, create a 3-lot subdivision, 1 lot being where the church is, and then 2 lots, 50 by 100 feet, that would have 1 house only on each lot is what they're requesting. It would not be a multifamily use. It would be single-family residential house. Is that fair?
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. All right, any other discussion?
And then if we decided we thought that it would be better as R3A instead of R3B, would we need to make a motion to that effect?
You could make a motion to that effect that you recommend that it be rezoned to R3A, is 10,000, or R3B, which is what they've requested. Either way, it's a recommendation to the city council.
So I would be willing to go with that R3A, and I say that based on hearing the discussion about from the representative here for the church, talking about a transitional zoning. To me, R3A is still a transitional zoning based on the size of lots there. That's still, at 100 by 100, still gonna be a lot smaller than the lots on Wayside and plus 18, 19 over here. So I'm willing to allow them to cut off a piece of their property and sell it, but not R3B. So I'm willing to go that R3A.
Question then to follow up, and I'm sorry. Should we do the R3A, forward a positive recommendation, and the church say, wow, that's really not what we wanted, and would they be able to withdraw that from consideration for the city council, or does that still move forward either way?
Well, the application is for R3B, and the application and request will go to the city council as R3B. And so what you all will be doing is making a recommendation on what you think is appropriate based on the application, based on the public hearing. At the city council level, they likewise have the authority to go to a more restrictive classification. And also, the developer always has the right to withdraw the application at any point in time.
All right, any other discussion?
Let me make sure we're clear. Even if you make a recommendation for R3A, the application request is R3B, and that's what will be presented to the council. And then the council will take your recommendation in the public hearing there and make a determination.
All right.
So we have to turn down R3B today if that's so inclined by the commission.
You got three options. One is not to rezone it at all. Second is to take the application as requested and make a recommendation to rezone it to B3 or R3B, or make a recommendation to rezone it to R3A. Those are kind of your three options.
But to be clear, if one of us makes the recommendation for R3A, that doesn't give anybody up here the opportunity to vote on a recommendation of the council for R3B.
No, it doesn't. So if you wanted to, I mean, you could even do it this way. You could take a motion. You could take your first motion on the application. Maybe that's a good thing to do. Make a motion on the R3B, which is the application, vote it up or down. If it goes down, then make a second motion on R3A and see if it passes. You can take multiple votes if you want to.
All right, any other discussion? All right, do I have a motion?
And that's probably a good fair idea. Take the R3B first and see what happens.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a recommendation that we send a positive recommendation to the City Council that on agenda item 241003, that we approve the zoning change to R-3B.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All right, roll call. Carol, please.
Gant,
No.
No.
Diamond,
No.
Vaughn,
No.
Lindsay, Smith,
No.
Nelson,
No.
Lazenby,
All right, motion's denied. Does anybody wish to make any other motion on this agenda item?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we forward a positive recommendation to the City Council revising case number 241003 to change the current zoning for the property under consideration from R1 to R3A.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion on the motion? Roll call. Carol?
Gant,
Yes.
Lemoyne,
Yes.
Diamond,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Lindsay, Smith,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Lazenby.
All right, motion's approved. All right, at this time, we come to public participation part of our meeting. Anybody here wish to speak? No? All right. We have a few announcements to make. The next regular meeting of the Planning Commission will be held Tuesday, November 12th. A work session will begin at 6 p.m. in the multipurpose room of the Spanish Fork Community Center, followed by the regular meeting at 6:30. The next informal work session of the Planning Commission will be held Monday, October 28th at 6 p.m. The submission deadline for the November regular meeting agenda is Tuesday, October 15th at 12 noon. Do I have any other announcements anybody wish to make? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?